Welcome to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. Today I have Cortney Thomas with me. Cortney is an agent on Prairie and Pine Real Estate Group, which is our real estate team. And she just got her license a little over a year ago.
Yep.
So I thought that it would be a really great opportunity for people to hear from someone who is fairly new in the industry and is absolutely rocking and rolling.
Yeah, rocking and rolling.
Okay, so Cortney, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up being a real estate agent?
Okay, I'll give like the very brief version. So in 2021, I moved here from the West Coast with my husband and two daughters. And shortly after we moved here, things in the marriage got very bad very quickly. And at that time, I was working for you as a director of operations.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to you and basically said, hey, things have got to change. I got to get rid of the husband, but I can't make enough money to support ourselves. So I think I gave myself like, I don't know, from the time that I started until the time I was licensed, I think it was something like 3 months where I just kind of hit the ground running. Getting into sales was never my plan, but I did it and it turned out to be probably the biggest blessing of my life.
Awesome. Good. What did you do prior to being on our real estate team?
Oh gosh. So I've been involved in real estate in so many different capacities, but not in the sales. But so I've done real estate law, I've done escrow, I've done some staging, and also my mom was a realtor, so I helped her a little bit. But getting onto the sales side of things was never really, I didn't think it was for me. And I don't know why I had that in my brain, but it just wasn't something that had registered with me until I guess the universe or God kind of just threw me in that direction, given it a choice, but it worked out really well. So I'm not mad about it.
Well, and it's probably a good thing that your mom was an agent as you were growing up.
Yeah,
so,
and a single mom too.
Yeah, so you kind of knew what it really took and all of the hard work that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of new agents just kind of, they think that they're getting into this job because it's flexible and I'm going to be able to have all this free time.
Yeah, the free time. And also watching you guys as the director of operations side, just knowing what it takes to actually make it and seeing the kind of the revolving door of the people that make it versus those who don't. So I really knew exactly what I had to do the moment that I started and even before to make sure that I was successful.
Absolutely. Now, what you did not touch on is that when you started as an agent, you had no database.
None whatsoever.
No sphere of influence.
No, none. Yeah. So when we moved here, I knew nobody. I think I knew a couple of people, and the people that I did know were in real estate because there were people that I'd met at work. So I mean, I was starting with absolutely nothing. Like, I mean, I knew nobody. I had maybe like 10 people in my database and they were teachers and maybe a couple of my daughter's friends. And that was it, really. That was it. Not much to work with.
Okay. Well, so that kind of leads me to my next question that I wanted to ask you. What has been your biggest challenge going from an employee to a self-employed person?
I think just managing the schedule. So when you go into, something that's very compartmentalized and sort of has more of a rigid schedule to something where you're setting your own schedule throughout the day, just making sure that you get up, get the most important work done first, and not letting the day get away from you. Even now, a year later, and I still have like very rigid with how the things I get done, I still get busy and have days where I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't, make my phone calls today or lead gen. And definitely just setting your day up for success every day is probably the hardest thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does a typical day in real estate look like for you?
Okay, so I am an early riser, so I'm up between 4:45 and 5 every morning. even on the weekends, like a crazy person. But so I get up really early, I meditate, every morning I set my intentions for the day and I actually physically write them out. It helps me sort of stay organized and kind of focus for the day. By the time my daughters are up at like 6:45, 7 o'clock, I'm already ready for the day so that I can kind of help them. We're out the door at 7:30, drop kids off. The moment that they are in school till about 11:30 or 12, I try to keep that time blocked off Monday through Friday so that I can lead gen, make my phone calls. Obviously things come up, showings come up, appointments come up. But I really try to keep that blocked off. Afternoons I keep for, showings, appointments, inspections, and then rinse and repeat.
Okay. That kind of makes me just think of a question for you. What helped you kind of establish that schedule for yourself? Was it just seeing things that had happened with agents on our team, or were you just kind of like, this is what's going to work best for me? Because real estate really is one of those not one size fits all, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can kind of do something a little different. So what made you decide that would kind of be your schedule?
Well, you had a big part in that. Mackenzie, you were really good about making sure that we get the most important work done, the income producing activities done first, because that's what is going to pay your bills and your mortgages and set your business up. But yeah, also a lot of just seeing what other agents are doing that are working and being successful, and then those are not. So I take a lot of inspiration from you guys on the team, from people in our office, and then, people that I listen to on podcasts, and just try to take what I think will work for me and then kind of, go from there.
Sure. Okay, perfect. If you could give advice to a brand new agent, what would it be?
By far, hands down, the most important thing that a new agent can do is to find a good mentor. Like, find a good mentor, find a good mentor, find a good mentor, join a team. If you are absolutely opposed to joining a team, just find somebody who has a successful business, who's ethical, who you admire, and learn from them, because that person's going to teach you the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th most important thing. So
sure.
I landed on this team by happenstance. I applied for the job, got it, and I'm 1,000% certain it was divine intervention, because had I not been in that place and got that job and been on the team and transitioned to sales, I wouldn't be where I was today. So find somebody, learn everything you can from them.
That is great advice. And that's what I always tell people, right, too, is when I got into the business, 10 years ago, teams were kind of just becoming a thing, and they weren't really very organized or put together or anything like that. And probably the biggest mistake I made was not having a mentor or someone to kind of help guide me, at least in those, few years where you're just making all the mistakes and you don't know what you're doing and you have no direction. So.
You don't have to learn from all your mistakes. You don't have to make all the mistakes. I mean, that's why they're there, is to prevent some of the mistakes. Obviously learn from the ones that you do make, but I mean, I see a lot of solo agents really struggle in the beginning, and then it would take them almost a year to kind of find their groove, when that year, that wasn't necessary. They could have cut that down to 3 months, 2 months, 6 months even. So just find somebody that can help you.
Well, and I think so far on our team, it's probably been about, 90 to 120 days really that it takes for people to find a groove. At least to the point where then they can start having some consistent business and or kind of get the ball rolling as far as that goes. So.
Yeah, and that number is a lot longer in other instances too. So I think we've got our systems down pretty solid.
Yes, I would agree with that. Okay, so what are some ways, and this can be personal or business related, what are some ways that you're setting yourself up for success every single week?
Another thing, I'm a single mom now, if nobody got that. So I have 2 smallish children, a house, dogs, all the responsibilities, plus I work a ton, and just staying motivated during the day and giving myself some grace, trying to keep a schedule, but like I mentioned earlier, writing down my intentions for the day. So when I have my day kind of planned out, the things that I want to accomplish in front of me, and being able to see that, that just kind of helps me stay on the road to where I need to go. But obviously things come up. If you don't have a perfect day, that's fine. I think as a realtor and a mom, you try to compartmentalize everything. You try to keep work at work and your kids at kids, and really that's not possible. Like you can't 100% be with your kids when you're with your kids and 100% at work. And so really kind of learning how to blend the two and a good balance has been really helpful too.
Yeah. I've told you guys this numerous times, like real estate is 24/7. So you have to be very intentional about your personal time and your time with your family, because otherwise you are going to feel like you're just working 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've gotten better about that. I wasn't for a while, but I'm like blocking off specific times for the family, putting my phone down at night,
Good.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
boundaries.
Yeah. It's hard though in the beginning, right? Because you want to answer everybody's phone call. You want to make sure that you're not missing something. And so, it's very easy to get out of balance very quickly.
Yeah, you feel like you have something to prove. So I'm going to respond in 30 seconds.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So, what do you think, kind of leading in, because you just brought up the fact that you're a single mom, what do you think has been your biggest challenges as being a single mom? And what are you most proud of about this life transition?
The biggest challenge, I think, is just feeling like when you go from either not working and being married into working, or going from, working to being a single mom, there's always going to be a transition, and there's always going to be part of you that feels like your kids are not getting as much as they deserve. And I just wanted, this literally just happened last night. I just wanted to share a story. So we just send out football calendars to our database. And so it's like a football schedule of the college, Nebraska, Iowa, football schedule. And my daughter had a sleepover on Saturday, and she was telling her friends, they were talking about how my face is all over the refrigerators because I sent all of her friends. And I asked Mabel at Target yesterday, I was like, well, was that embarrassing for you? She's like, no, Mom, I'm so proud. And I was like, okay, so while there is a trade-off, obviously my kids don't get as much of me as they did. They're watching, and you're setting an example, they pay attention to how hard you're working, and they definitely appreciate it. So just finding the balance is probably the toughest thing. What I am most proud of, though, is just what I've been able to accomplish in the last year. So I'm not saying it's unprecedented numbers, but pretty
Tell everybody your numbers. They're pretty great.
So I think for the first 12 months, so from June to June, I think I sold, it was a little over $7 million in volume. And it was 15 units. And then from January of this year until now, I'm at 12. And I think I've done just this year a little over 6. And I'm hoping to close the year at 8.5. And probably around 20 units for the year. So, as somebody that's just starting out without a database, who's a single mom who had all of the odds stacked against her, every reason not to make it, to be able to get here is something that I'm super proud of.
So tell everybody a little bit about some of the things that you've done to get those numbers, as far as the daily activities that you're doing.
Yeah. So I hit expired listings hard. They are my favorite thing. I love warm leads.
Okay. So tell everybody why you feel like they're warm.
Because they're already ready to sell. They've already been motivated to sell, and they have a reason to sell. They've already been through that. The hardest thing with expired listings, though, is just kind of recalibrating expectations. So usually they're coming out of there disappointed. They are feeling like either the marketing wasn't great or their house was priced wrong. So figuring out what their kind of bone to pick was, what their cause of contention was, and sort of reformulating a plan for them can be tough. But once you kind of get there, they're always so appreciative of the results. They're some of my best clients and are already giving referrals. So I'm super thankful. So I hit expireds hard. I also am not opposed to door knocking. I like being in front of people. So if it's
harder for somebody to tell you off if they're standing right in front of you.
And it depends. If you have a good script, if you have a good reason to knock on their door, and it's not coming across as aggressive or, too salesy, then these people want to talk. And if you get them talking, you can usually get the information about Susan down the street or Jan over here. They're happy to share these things with you. If I'm kind of having a hard time hitting my numbers, I will literally get bundled up in the middle of winter and go knock doors if I need to. So, and I've learned to really the conversion rates for leads that come in through the team. I've learned to kind of convert those at a pretty high rate too. So those are the 3 main areas to build my database.
So let's talk about numbers really quick, just so that it can maybe help someone who's either looking to get their license or is fairly new in the business, or maybe they're a few years in the business, but they're just not seeing the success that they were hoping for. How many people are you attempting to talk to and actually talking to every single week to close the 15 units that you closed in your first year?
Okay. So this has actually just changed recently because I'm kind of recalibrating numbers, but I was attempting to have about 10 to 15 conversations a day. And I'm trying to get about 2 appointments a week. Some weeks were higher, some weeks were lower, but that 2 appointments a week was kind of my sweet spot. Usually it was 1 buyer, 1 seller lead, or 1 buyer, 1 seller appointment. Now I'm kind of leaning more towards trying to go more listing heavy, just to kind of transition. It's a better use of my time, especially with small children. So those numbers are going up much higher, but we're kind of pivoting to who I'm reaching out to. So TBD on how that's going to go.
Sure.
It's a lot of work, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. So 15 to 10 to 15 conversations a day, 2 appointments a week, to hit that numbers.
Okay. And, you don't have to share exactly how much money you made this last year, but especially because we are talking a lot about how to make 6 figures in real estate. Did you get pretty close?
I have made over 6 figures in the last year in real estate, and that's with splits, everything combined. So it's doable. And considering that I was in a position prior to, had I not made this transition, I wouldn't have been able to, keep my house and keep my car and keep everything consistent for my kids during the separation and divorce. So that was really my biggest motivator, was I just need enough money to keep things consistent for them. And now we're kind of far surpassing that. So I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just keep going.
Yep, just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would like to kind of wrap this up because I think that you've given everybody a lot of good nuggets to think about. What would be kind of your one parting either piece of advice or maybe nugget to chew on for people who are considering getting into the business?
Sit down with people that are already in the business and have real conversations with them. I just had coffee with somebody last week who was considering it, and I think that was a great start. And then once you're in it, it's really easy to kind of try things for a week or 2 and just beep up all over the place and be like, it's not working, nothing's working. But you have to pick a couple of things and just be really consistent with them and learn to get comfortable being on the phone and talking to people in person, because that's where the conversion happens.
Yes, absolutely. Agreed. Cortney, thank you so much for coming on. We are just so excited for you. And I know that you have already done great things, but you are even more destined for greatness in this industry. And this is coming from someone who sat down with you a year ago and said, man, your personality assessment says
I know.
You're
going to be terrible at it.
No, I just said, you're definitely more introverted.
Yeah,
you are,
100%.
And you are just absolutely killing it. So
I'm
super proud of you.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.